This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
And welcome, everybody, to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host for the day, the illustrious and wonderful Andrew Cooper-Ryder. And if you think I'm not illustrious and wonderful, well, I don't care about your opinion. Anyways, thank you for joining us. If you like what you're hearing today, you like hearing me talk, you can always catch my show here on 970 and on WBNA 21 called The Andrew Cooper-Ryder Show. It's on Sundays at 6 p.m. and Wednesdays at 11. If you like me even more and you say, look, I really, really want to see more of Andrew Cooper-Ryder, well, every Friday night at 11 o'clock, we have a Late Night on the Right. It's a late night talk show, and we cover some national topics. But this show here on Kentucky's Voice, we are focusing, of course, on Kentucky's issue. I've got a show for you playing today. I have a guest joining me today, Shannon Denniston out of Powell County. He is, of course, here talking about taxes, talking about school taxes, everything else. So we'll get to that here in a bit. But before I do, I want to remind you, we here at Kentucky's Voice, we're a nonprofit, and we're operating simply out of the goodness of our hearts to bring you the news of the day. And so if you want to help others stay informed, you want to help out what we're doing here, feel free to visit Kentucky's Voice. You can also shoot us a text message. You can text the word GIVE to 502-571-0970. Once again, text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 502-571-0970. Become a donor, become a monthly donor, and support everything all of us hosts here are doing at Kentucky's Voice. You can also, if you want to join into the conversation today, you want to text in your thoughts, your feelings, everything else, We'll have that conversation. Generally, in the last segment is where I go over those text messages, but you feel free to shoot us a text at 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-0970. As I mentioned, today's show, we're going to have a guest talking about taxes. Now, specifically, our guest is coming out of Powell County, where they are right now in the midst of raising taxes about 15%, raising property taxes 15%. You heard that right. That is a huge percentage increase. But right here in Jefferson County, where, of course, 970 is based out of, I think it's important to hear this story because, well, Jefferson County Public Schools is having their own financial issues. As many of you are maybe aware, Jefferson County Public Schools has even formed a committee to look at raising your taxes. And a part of that may be taxes that end up being open to being recalled by the citizens of the area. Because, of course, JCPS is $188 million in the hole. They have $2.5 billion with a B and backlog maintenance repairs. They've mismanaged your money. They've spent it on all kinds of crazy things. They just lost millions in funding from the federal government on the magnet school programs because they were being racist. They were not allowing people in regardless of their skin color. They were disallowing certain people because, they were a little too white. Don't want those whiteys in the magnet schools. And so they lost some funding from the federal government due to that racist behavior. And so that is going to compound the issue even more. I mean, a few million when you're already broke, that can really affect you. And so part of that is they're going to be looking at raising taxes. They're going to be looking at doing these things. How do you fight back? How do you stop that from happening? Well, that's why we have our guest here today talking about a fight going on right here in Kentucky in Powell County to fight against those tax increases. So you want to stay with us, of course. And as always, if you want to join in the conversation, just to remind you before I get deep into this conversation here and we come back in a few seconds here with Shannon, you can text us at 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. Of course, I'm your host for the day, Andrew Cooper-Ryder. I host for you guys normally on Wednesdays. So if you want to make sure you're tuning in to catch me, make sure you tune in on Wednesdays, of course. And once again, if you want to help out what we're doing here, text the word GIVE, 502-571-0970. We'll be back in a few short seconds here talking about school taxes. I know we're all very excited. We all love writing those property tax bills. We all like pushing it out there. So we'll have that when we come back here in a few short minutes.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And you're back after that short break here on Kentucky's Voice. Host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider. School tax. I know you all are very excited. You've probably recently gotten your property tax bills in the mail. I know I got mine. I was so incredibly excited to write that check to a school systems that are objectively failing. But some schools have decided that it's not enough. They need a little more of that cheddar out of your pocket. That includes Powell County schools, where Shannon Dennison here, he lives in Montgomery County, owns some property, though, in Powell County. So he does have to pay these taxes, of course. Shannon, why don't you tell us a little bit about this tax increase? Was it 15%, 16%?
16.5%, and they have taken a 4% increase each of the 9 of the last 10 years. So they're asking for 16.5%. They get what they ask for. However, it's up to us as the public. We have a petitioning mechanism where we can push it to a referendum, fancy word for a vote at the ballot box. Okay,
and so real quick, if you want to explain how that law works, how does the petitioning system work? Because people here, they're looking at a school district that is trying to take away their taxes and trying to increase those. How does that deal with it?
Sure. So first off, I'm very accessible. So if anyone would like to know step-by-step how to petition a local government entity, I'm more than welcome to help. If I'm unavailable, I have a staff that can help you with that. And this is a volunteer grassroots staff, so take it easy on them, please. But we're very much passionate about the issue. And to explain the process, Andrew, essentially what happens is in Kentucky, a school board can enact a tax increase above compensating rate, compensating plus 4%. Now, what compensating rate, the definition of compensating rate is the rate which would produce the current year's revenue. So our government entities, unlike us as individuals, is guaranteed to take in more money each year as time goes on than the current year. So that's compensating rate, the rate that would produce the current year's revenue. And then also they get to add on to that personal property and new property. So that's a built-in increase already. The 4% increase is simply a 4% increase above that revenue level. So if we were talking, $100,000 to keep it basic, it'd be going to $104,000 with a 4% increase. So in the case of Powell County, I noticed an advertisement buried deep in our newspaper in Montgomery County, and we're sister counties. We're, we have an invisible line between us, but we are adjoining counties. And in our Mount Sterling Advocate newspaper was this notice, a little notice about Powell County School Board raising their taxes. And when I pulled up my calculator, I come up with 16.5% in the change in revenue from the current year to what they're forecasting for next year. And when I started asking some of my Powell County friends, they said that they didn't know about it, that it wasn't advertised in their local newspaper. So that was the first telltale sign.
So wait, so it's required by law. So to fill people in a little bit, so it's required by law that if you're going to do this tax increase, when they have the vote or to set the tax rate, they have to advertise that vote. And if they're increasing it, no matter what they're doing, they have to advertise in the paper that they're setting a rate, or is it they have to advertise as long as they're increasing it?
They have to advertise in the paper if they are taking above the 4%, I believe is the rule. So in this case, they did properly advertise, and even though it might not sound right, they advertised in a different newspaper, not the newspaper in Powell County.
Okay, so there was another newspaper they could have advertised in.
Yes, absolutely. The local newspaper.
More local to Powell County.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, they elected to advertise in a paper that maybe covers Powell County, but also covers Montgomery County.
Maybe covers Powell County. I don't think it really does a good job of covering Powell County.
Do you think they did that on purpose?
Absolutely. So let me explain the law, okay? And their defense here, and I want to give some grace here because the law allows them to do what they did, okay? So they didn't violate any law. They're allowed to, by law, they're actually...
Yeah, but
they have to, okay?
Ethics side of things.
Exactly. So we're big on ethics here, right? So I'm a very principled person, and people will understand with our campaign very quickly that we're running a principled campaign. So, and we'll talk about that later. But in the case of Powell County, they did exactly follow the law. They did publish it in the closest local weekly publication. Okay, so their local newspaper is called the Powell County Patriot, and it is a biweekly. So they publish every other week. They're not at the level yet where they can afford to publish weekly. So what the Powell County School Board should have done in good faith is publish it in both papers. And actually, I'm writing legislation to achieve that. So I believe in these situations where we have a small community where they don't have a weekly paper, maybe they don't even have a paper, that they should have to advertise, in the local largest weekly publication. But in the event that they do have a local publication, even if it's a single page and it comes out once a month, I believe there's an obligation there, at the very least, to advertise locally so the locals know about it. I mean, Andrew, do you subscribe to newspapers, in other counties? Probably not. You probably just subscribe to your local city or county newspaper.
I do, but
you're a little different, though,
I'm
right?
a little different. Right. I track news all around the state, so
sure.
I do subscribe to some different papers.
You're not a good example.
Yeah, I'm not a good example. But to your average citizen will not subscribe to very many newspapers, to your point.
That's correct. So a lot of people got upset early on with the school board, and it just kind of went south from there, and now we're going north. And what I mean by north is we have gathered the correct number of signatures. So let me back up and kind of explain the process, if I will. So in the case where a school board elects to take a tax increase that exceeds the 4%, they have to publish it they have to publish it twice. Okay, so each week in our newspaper they had to publish a notification, basically a notice saying what the rate currently is, what the compensating rate is, and then what the rate is that they're applying for, or that they're going to most likely set their rate to. Typically, when they put that high rate in there, that's the rate. They've already made their minds up to take that higher rate. They may state otherwise, but every single time I've ever seen it happened, it's always been that higher rate. So always pay attention to that, and always show up to those meetings. There's a couple meetings a year you need to be showing up to at your school boards, and that's the tax hearing meetings that they advertise. So in their case, in Powell County, there were, I believe, 5,370 people who voted in the most recent presidential election. And out of that number, you have to have 10% sign a petition form, and it has to be a very specific petition form. If it doesn't have the correct parameters, they'll throw it out. So we're at that phase right now where they're validating the signatures. We collected almost double the number of signatures that were required of us to do so. I take offense to the process because I'm a property owner. My wife and I, we have 3 lots we're going to be building cabins on. We started 2 of those cabins in the Red River Gorge. Beautiful area. I proposed to my wife on top of Natural Bridge. We've been married 23 years, been together 25 years, and almost dropped the ring off the edge when I proposed to her. It was a place that my family, we would vacation at.
I got married in the Gorge.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
So super special place for you too. And so it's just an area that I try not to take advantage of, and most people don't take advantage of it. They don't. A lot of locals haven't even been on some of the backcountry trails. So I encourage everyone to go out and explore the gorge, especially this time of year. It's amazing for the next 30, 60 days. It's amazing with all the leaves and the color changes. But in the case of Powell County, we needed to collect 537 signatures, and we collected just shy of 1,000. The goal that I'd set for the group was 1,200, so we came very close to that, but we didn't even maximize the 45-day window that we had to collect, and we turned them in early. I know we could have exceeded the 1,200. It wouldn't have been an issue, but we had way more than we needed. So you guys have
collected enough signatures.
Yes, sir.
You've turned them in.
And they're validating. They're validating.
Pushes the tax increase to now show up on the next election. Is it November's election or the primary? Not necessarily. Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. So at this point of the game, or let me back up. Okay, so the petition committee needs to be 3 members, registered voters of the county, 3 or more members. We had 6. We just couldn't whittle it down any more than 6. These are 6 phenomenal individuals that my wife and I, we planned on doing all the petitioning ourselves when we came into Powell County, and we had 3 people raise their hands very quickly. That group of 3 is now turned into 30 plus people. So it was kind of difficult for us to whittle it down just to 3, but we came up with 6 people, and the goal there was for each person to collect, a couple hundred signatures and do it within 45 days, which we did. My wife and I, we couldn't be part of the petition committee. We can't sign the petition. We can't even vote at the ballot box on the issue, even though we own property in Powell County. So something else I would like to see addressed legislatively is in specific issues of property tax issues where there is an election held, that property owners and registered voters of that jurisdiction should have a right, should have a voice, should have a vote. So I'd like to maybe explore that idea, and if that's something my constituents would support, then maybe we could enact legislation like that. So we have the signatures gathered. The signatures have been turned in. The county clerk of Powell County has 30 days to validate the signatures. Historically, 3 to 5% of signatures get sued off the ballot, is what they say. So we should be good. We should have more than enough number of signatures
signatures to take the next step. The next step, once the county clerk validates the proper number of signatures, the school board has three options. One option they've had all along. They can simply take 4% and sell off into the horizon. So they could did that before we petition. They could do it right now before the signatures are validated. They could do it after the signatures are validated. The second option they have available to them is they can host what's called a special election. The special election is going to cost taxpayers of Powell County about $35,000 up to about more than that. Okay, so $35,000+ approximately to host a special election, and the special election will just be a single issue: do you support the tax increase or not? And anyone that is a registered voter of Powell County may have a vote on that. The third option is to wait until next November of 2026, and place the question on the ballot for free at no cost. So they petition on the ballot for free at no cost.
So they
to
can.
taxpayers.
So they can wait till the next election. They don't necessarily have to hold it. Well, when we come back, we'll go ahead and start digging into some of what the school has said to kind of fight back against what's going on. Obviously, they feel like they need the money. Do they need the money? We'll discuss that as well. Does the school need the money? What are they doing to fight back? And just, what do we think is going to happen here? Like I said, very important for Jefferson County residents to hear about, as your school district is right now having conversations about how to raise your taxes. We'll be back in a few short minutes.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless senators, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And you're back on Kentucky's Voice. Your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider, joined by Shannon Denniston. He's here today talking about school tax increases, specifically what happens when a school district decides they want to jack up those taxes almost 16%, or right at 16%, as what's happening in Powell County, Kentucky right now. An important thing for everybody to hear about here in Kentucky, because, well, especially if you live in Jefferson County, where I know, obviously, the radio's live here and you all are watching on TV. Your school district right now is having committee hearings on raising your taxes. So before the break, we discussed just kind of the mechanics of this tax increase, how you pull it onto the ballot, everything else. Now I'd like to dig into, why does the school need another 15% increase in taxes? That's a pretty massive increase. One would say you shouldn't plan your life out, Shannon, over over the idea that you might have 15% more money. I mean, imagine at your home and your budgets, planning out your next month's budget and just assuming you're going to have 15% more to budget. What do they need to spend it on? Has students gone up a lot there in Powell County?
No, they haven't. So actually, the student enrollment has declined by approximately 20%.
So it went down.
It went down. So they went from 2,500 down to 2,000 students.
It went down that much? 20% over what
10
amount of time?
years. In 10 years. They're losing about 3 to 5% per year.
Holy cow. And so why do they need a 15% increase?
Well, something the public needs to know about is this increase. It's a nickel tax, and the nickel tax can only be used for facility development. So,
don't you love that term, nickel tax?
Yeah,
they make it sound
so cheap.
5 cents.
Yeah, just nickel, man.
Multiplied by,
Well, it's tens of millions of dollars, folks. So
thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of value, and it's a nickel per every 100. So, per every 100,000, what is that? Another $50?
I don't know. It represents tens of millions of dollars. I know that much at the end of the day, because once it goes on there, it's on there forever. They've already had 2 nickels, and this will be their 3rd nickel if they get it, if we allow them to get it. And they're not going to get it. We're going to stop them at the ballot box unless they choose to take the 4%, which, I hate to even say I disagree that they should even get 4%. I mean, the public has done its work. The burden was on us to go out and gather the signatures. I would like to see the state law say that if the 10% threshold's reached, that they are limited to no increase. I think that would be reasonable. I also think it would be reasonable that if maybe we can get 20% threshold, that maybe they have to take a lower rate, and maybe if we get a 30% threshold, maybe we can change the rate to whatever the people want to change it to. So there's other things that we need to put in place at the state level. To kind of, to give protection to the taxpayers and to give protection to people in these communities and give them their voices back and a vote at the ballot box on things.
So, obviously, this fight is raging on. I've seen documents coming from the State Board of Education that talks about these types of tax fights, what you need to do. I've obviously seen school districts fighting. People who follow me know I've been covering the Fayette County Public Schools, the Jefferson County Public Schools issues as far as tax increases go. And one thing I see often is they certainly try to obfuscate the issue. I know right now, Jessamine County Schools, for an example, has raised taxes over that 4%. They've raised taxes, I believe, 5.5%. I know Shelby County also has increased taxes above that 4%. I know there's a petition drive started there in Shelby County area as well. But one of the things that Jessamine County has said to try to defend their behavior is like, look, do we take a vote to set the rate? Yes, we do. Are we the ones who are collecting the money? Yes, we are. But you know whose fault it really is? It's the PVA's fault, because they've done increased your property values so much that if we even just keep our rate the same, it's more than a 4% increase. That's not our fault. Sure, we set the rate and we, handle the vote, but it's not our fault. I've seen that. I've seen school districts try a few different things. What is Powell County Schools trying to do? Using taxpayer-funded resources, too, of course, as they message on their Facebooks and use the parents' email addresses to try to, market their viewpoint. What are they saying? Why do they need the money? What do they say it's going to go to? And how are they trying to sell this?
So let's unpack. That's a whole lot to unpack, Andrew. So let's unpack it. So the nickel tax is for facility development. It doesn't make it to the classroom. It doesn't pay our teachers more, which our teachers need to be paid more. I think everyone's in agreement on that.
I don't know. I saw something. Hold on real quick.
Okay,
we'll get to the point, but I saw something. So Fayette County Public Schools just put out like this salary search thing where you can search salaries. And I was just plugging in names, searching salaries. And I saw one that was an elementary school art teacher. Okay. Mm-hmm. In Fayette County Public Schools. And I get it. I know it's not popular to say it, but I'm going to say it. This art teacher in elementary schools that is, has every major holiday off, has several weeks off during the summer. I know they say they do some other work, but, several months off a year. Definitely they work less than your average citizen shows up to work every day. I'm not saying they work less than, but they show up to work less. Is being paid $80,000 a year to teach art to elementary school kids. I don't know. I don't know if teaching kids to finger paint is worth $80K a year, but that's what Fayette County Schools is paying. So there are some areas, and I definitely can see out in the rural areas, especially where teachers' pay definitely needs to be picked up. But then I look at some areas like Fayette County Public Schools and looking through some of their salaries where you've got art teachers making $80K a year. You have school principals making $135,000 a year. That's an elementary school principal I saw making $135K a year. You have the school superintendent making $400K a year. I just feel like the average Kentucky citizen isn't making that much. I mean, the average citizen who, objectively speaking, is working more, showing up to factories or even in office spaces and everything else, working probably more than 40 hours a week, isn't making, 52 weeks a year, isn't making $80K a year.
So if that
even with a college degree. But anyways, I'll let you.
If that makes your blood boil, you're going to love this one. So I found a school in Kentucky where taxpayers are spending $71,000 per year per pupil in educational costs. $71,000 per pupil. We have families, a lot of families here in Kentucky that don't make anywhere near $70,000 a year. In my county of Montgomery, we spend around $13,000 per year to educate a pupil. And in Powell County, they're at $17,000. So something back to the student enrollment, the law never took into consideration our compensating rate rule law, which is KRS 132.0 It didn't take into account what happens in the event of declining student enrollment. So I've coined the phrase flaw in the law, hashtag flaw in the law. And I talk a lot about it because what happens, in the case of Powell County with declining student enrollment, they go from 2,000 students down to 1,000 students. Well, the $17,000 goes to $34,000 per pupil. So do you think it's fair that we spend $34,000 to educate one child in a government school system? I don't. I just don't. I think it's crazy. It's insane that we're spending that kind of money on
Shannon,
education.
it just sounds like you hate kids.
No, it's nothing about that, right? So in China, China spends $5,000. The country of China spends $5,000. In our country, we spend $20,000. Nationwide is the average to educate a child. That's a huge discrepancy. $20,000 to $5,000. What's their quality of education compared to our quality of education? We need to be looking into these things. I know that you can homeschool in Kentucky for an average of $1,500 per year. And I know that you can send your child to a non-government school like we did starting out with our children for around $3,000 to $4,000 per year.
I mean, even take Fayette County, they spend
26 or
20 something thousand per student. And I send my son to private school. It's a normal 5-day a week, normal school day. They have athletic facilities. They've got 2 gyms. They've got a baseball field, a football field. The only thing they don't have that other school districts, that a normal public school district would have, would be buses. And the tuition there is $13,000 a year. And that's $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 less than what Fayette County Public Schools is spending. When we come back, we'll keep talking about this here because I do want to hear what the school is actually trying to say to excuse, so they've lost over the last 10 years, they've lost 20% enrollment, but they now need to increase property taxes 15%, they say, because it just costs too darn much to educate these kids. If you want to join into the conversation, shoot us over a text 502-571-0970. I'll read those off in the fourth segment. That's 502-571-0970. Text in your comments, your concerns, your compliments. I like those. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. We'll be back in a few short minutes to continue the conversation.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And you are back here on Kentucky's Voice. We've been discussing school taxes. I know we're all very excited about school taxes, getting those tax bills. And as we speak right now, we have school districts all around the state increasing those taxes. You have some school districts like Jefferson County Public Schools that literally has formed a committee to figure out how to get a little more of that sweet private cheese, that sweet dollar bills out of the pockets of the citizens of the counties, and also some people who don't live there but just happen to have made the unfortunate mistake of owning property or working in these areas. As there's many different ways to tax. You have the payroll taxes that schools levy, property taxes, and one school district, Powell County Schools, that, as we learned in the last segment, has lost 20% of their student body over the last 10 years, is currently trying to increase property taxes 16%. And we have Shannon Denniston here. He's a resident of Montgomery County, but owns property in Powell County there. He's also running for state house representative. If you want to find out more about him, you can visit his website. What is it? Denniston4ky.com, and that's
F-O-R. Denniston, F-O-R, and Denniston is Denniston, the number or the word 4, and then K-Y. Denniston 4 Denniston4ky.com.
Okay.
And if you want to donate, just throw the word donate in front of that. Donate.Denniston4ky.com.
Got it. If you want to give your money to him.
If you want to fuel up this campaign.
You can make an investment to put somebody in office that will fight back against schools raising your taxes, something that affects all of us. And so we've been talking about this Powell County school tax. Now, you aren't just a talker. You're an active person.
Yes, sir.
And you've gotten involved there. You've helped organize the citizens in order to put this petition on the ballot. You've gotten enough signatures. It's now up to the school to decide what to do. But obviously in this, they have been, of course, trying to fight back.
Oh, yeah.
What is some of the talking points you've heard out of the schools?
Yeah, so the school they have done a smear campaign against me, a defamation. It's defamation of my character at this point. You can go to their social media page on Facebook, Powell County Schools. I encourage everyone to go there, and you'll quickly notice that the comment section is turned off on all of their posts now.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah, that's always great.
Whenever
right?
government has turned off the comments, you know they are definitely up to very good things. They definitely are transparent people when the comments are left off. Those are the kind of people that love public debate and feedback. I know. Yeah. I when I really, really want to hear from people, I also turn off the comments on my social media pages.
Yeah. So that's the first telltale sign is why turn off comments. The public is demanding the comments be activated and turned on, and they just will not, for the life of them, turn them back on. So the posts that they've made, they've actually called me out by name multiple times in multiple posts. And I'd made a post. It was very vague. It didn't mention Powell County or anything. It was just talking about this unruly spending by a government school board. I'm not even sure I even said in Kentucky, but they read into that to believe I was talking about them. Sure enough, I was, but I didn't call them out. I didn't make any reference whatsoever to Powell County. It was simply a text message that was shared with me, and I asked permission before I shared it from the other party. I cropped out their information and I shared it to my Facebook, and it went viral. And next thing I know, the actual government school board of Powell County is making a post trying to defame my character. Just ludicrous. Look me up. I'm very accessible. Come meet with me if you don't know me or if someone said something bad
What'd
about me.
What'd the post
say? The post basically just said that I was spreading some false information. There was some people in Powell County that had did a series of open records requests recently, and they had requested specifically the checkbook register, I believe, and the credit card statements. And there were 400 plus pages of credit card statements that this person had to spend $40-some on. Why isn't that information in a PDF that's on a website somewhere for the public to dig into and ask questions? So the school board got really upset that the public, I assume for the first time in the history of Powell County school system, ever asked to see the credit card statements. Most people, when they do an open records request, it's very specific and limited, but this one was very in-depth, and it requested those statements. So when you start going through the statements and you see expenditures going to, say, for instance, Topgolf, a restaurant, a bar with golf, that a school board is spending money on that, you can't help but to raise your eyebrows.
Do they have a golf team?
I'm not sure if they have a golf team. I would like to think they have a golf team, but why would you go to Topgolf?
It's not that common. I'm going to be honest with you. It's really not common that schools have golf teams. But, yeah, you would wonder Topgolf is... And
then also, like, there was an expenditure for a hotel in Mount Sterling, one town over. Like I said, there's an imaginary line that separates our two counties, and they had rented a hotel room in Mount Sterling. There were a whole lot of other expenses on there that are very questionable. And the public should be asking questions, but the school board is upset that the public's starting to ask those questions now.
And so their way of defending that was to say, what, you don't know what you're talking about? This guy's crazy.
Yeah, and I didn't even do the records request. I haven't even seen all the data. I've just, have some people that have seen the data that have kind of been feeding me some information, and it's quite alarming. I probably should be talking more about it, but I was asked, to let them handle that. That's their county, of Powell County. But I do feel like I'm a stakeholder. I own 3 parcels of land there. Don't make any money in Powell County from the real estate I own there, which was another rumor that got started that, we own half the town in Powell County, and we have 3 lots that we're going to build cabins on one day. We started 2 of those.
So when it comes to as far as their excuse, though, for the increase,
sure.
Surely citizens have asked, well, wait, if your student body has fallen by 20% over the last 10 years, why would you need more money? Because even if just funding stayed the same, you would have more money per student. That's how math works.
A lot more.
But yet you need an increase. You have increased it, too, over those 10 years. As it's fallen, you've increased taxes over that time frame, and now you're adding on another 15%. 16%? What are they saying they need the money for?
They're saying they need $52 million, I believe is the number, for new athletic facilities. So specifically a football field and a indoor practice arena.
Is the football field covered in gold?
It's a grass
football
field right now, and they claim that it needs some repairs. And my wife and I had offered to repair the football field and any fields, track, or whatever they need repaired. using our own resources at no cost to taxpayers, no cost to the school system. Our request fell on deaf ears. We also offered a full ride scholarship. I'm a real estate brokerage owner. I'm a broker here in Kentucky with agents in our brokerage, and I mentor those agents and teach them real estate. So that's what I do today. And one of my businesses there, and we offered the scholarship, and they even declined the scholarship. And you don't even have to work for my company. It was just a mentorship program, a scholarship program to help you get a real estate license.
So real quick though, talking about those
Sure.
athletic facilities, so they say they need $52 million for that, right? This was just in the back of my brain, so I just Googled it real quick to check. So JCPS, this is an article from May 8th. Okay, JCPS. That's Jefferson County Public Schools delays $32 million athletics upgrade plan for 6 high schools. So JCPS was, and they're not the bastion of fiscal responsibility. I mean, $188 million deficit. They were spending $32 million for 6 high schools. And Powell County wants to spend $52 million on 1 high school athletic facility.
That's my understanding. Now, it might be for their other schools. They're building a new school right now, an elementary school.
Do they have 6, like, middle schools, high schools that have, like, full-fledged football fields?
So the football field is at the high school in Powell County, and it is a grass field, and it's not in that bad of condition from what I can tell. Now, I'm not a football player. I don't play on it. The football team says that it needs repairs. They said that there's holes in it where they could break an ankle. So I proposed actually at one of the meetings to fix that. I said, let's go fix it tonight. And I was serious about it. I mean, I was willing to go over there and take some pictures and video footage and start putting together a game plan. Like I said, at no cost to the local school system or taxpayers. We were just going to fix the problem and move through it. That's what we do all day. We fix stuff. We fix problems as housing provider and a brokerage owner. We fix people's problems, and that's the approach I want to take to government.
So they turned you down there. Now I saw a video where they got kind of feisty with the state house rep that is running. He's running right now for the 6th congressional district. That was Bill Wesley. They were getting. I saw this video where. Bill Wesley, state house representative Bill Wesley, they were somehow trying to blame the state legislature was what I got. I didn't see the whole exchange, but they were trying to blame the state legislature for not giving them enough money. And Bill Wesley got up and said, we offered you millions of dollars for an aviation program for kids in these schools to get their pilot's licenses, right? And learn aviation. As a career, as a technical career, and you all turned that down. So it doesn't, outside looking in, you talk about the amount of money, they're turning down your offer to fix the fields. They're turning down Bill Wesley's offer from the state to pay for an aviation program. They're turning all this down. Is it by chance that, when they say we need the money for this and someone offers to solve that problem and they say no, is it not by chance that maybe that's not what they really want the money for and they're not being honest?
Well, they have to use the money for facilities. The nickel tax in Kentucky is specifically, I believe, for facility development. Yeah,
but money's fungible. I mean, we have to use it for facilities. Okay,
I guess the money that's been currently going to those facilities, they could, pull back that money.
It frees up elsewhere.
Absolutely,
because you can pay your janitors out of
yes.
facilities. You can pay your maintenance crew out of facilities. You can pay for, of course, your athletic fields and things like that out of facilities. One could argue you can pay for your coaches.
You want a quick solution for that?
You
want a quick solution for that? So in Powell County, the Red River Gorge is exploding with growth. There's hundreds of new cabins being built. And we're not talking about $100,000 structures. We're talking about $1 million cabins, $500,000 cabins and up. There's a tremendous amount of assessment growth that's occurring there. So organically, they're automatically going to take in more money because of the compensating rate roll.
Because you get that new property.
But also, here's something to notice is that those cabins, they're not stressing the local school board because they don't have students that go there. These are out-of-town owners, in a lot of cases out-of-state, even out-of-country owners that own these properties. So there's not students that live there as owner-occupants going to the school system. So they're getting all this organic natural growth, and there's really nothing that it's not stressing their system at all.
Well, when we come back here in this final segment, we'll talk a little bit more about solutions, possible legislative solutions, talk about your campaign here. If you want to join into the conversation, over the next break here. Text us 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. We'll be back in a few short minutes.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And you're back here on Kentucky's Voice. Before we move into this final segment, so far this show, we've had Shannon Denniston on with us talking about school taxes generally, using Powell County as an example where he's actively engaged in a fight on property tax there, but relating that back to just across the entire state, because obviously here in Jefferson County Public Schools and across the state, Shelby County as well, they are also increasing taxes, looking at ways to increase taxes, and we as citizens have to be armed to fight back. Now, we did get a few questions in off that text line. You might be able to get one more in if you want to add in. You can text us at 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. But here's one of the texts that came in. They're asking if there was a site for JCPS salary of teachers, principals, administrators. Now, this texter here is referencing earlier on in the show, I mentioned that Fayette County Schools has recently rolled out something like that. And I noticed just through poking around that there was an elementary school teacher getting paid $80,000 a year that was teaching art, an art elementary school teacher being paid $80,000 a year. And I just mentioned that seems high. There was a principals of elementary schools getting paid $130,000 a year. That also seems high. But the question about JCPS having this database, I am unaware of one, something to understand. And you might end up getting one out of Jefferson County Public Schools. See, Fayette County Public Schools is right now under an audit and has a horrible PR situation going on because they did try to raise the taxes. That got pushed back. That got fought against. Liggins is barely holding on to his job. The school board is barely holding on to their job. So they're trying to build up transparency because what they want to do here in as soon as they can build back that PR is go ahead and raise your taxes. I think JCPS may, if they're playing along, they may not want you to know right now because that may hurt their chances at a tax increase. But if they try for a tax increase and fail because and the feedback they're getting from citizens is they're not transparent enough, they may put the same thing in place. But Fayette County Public Schools has voluntarily put this in place. I think it'd be wonderful if, in the same way that at the state level, there's a salary database search. You can search any employee that is employed at all by the state, and you can go ahead and see what they're being paid. You can now do that, of course, for Fayette County Public Schools. I think it'd be great if that was across the board. I mean, it is taxpayer funds, and it is available to open records requests, too. It's not like if you wanted to know what specifically somebody was getting paid, you would fill out a form, you'd send it to them, and then they'd have a few days to send you back that information. So it's already publicly available if you ask for it. They should put it out there. I had another text come in. They said, families that rent their housing don't pay property taxes, yet property owners with no children fund the public schools. Now, I disagree with your first half there. Families that rent their housing don't pay property taxes. That isn't true because your rent is higher because you're paying property taxes. Trust me. And Shannon here owns many rental properties. Shannon, I'm sure you are including property taxes in when you're figuring out what rent rates you set for rental housing. You are figuring in those property taxes.
Absolutely,
correct?
Absolutely. Anytime the cost of goods sold for a business increases, you're going to have an increased cost in the output.
So while they may not be physically themselves writing the check to the school district, they are the ones paying for it. So even if you don't own property, but you rent, property taxes absolutely affects you, and it definitely affects the price of rent. And so that is something to watch out. But the point of property owners with no children fund the public schools. We hear this from time to time, all the time, about, look, these people don't have kids. I've never had kids. I have no kids in the system, yet I'm funding these schools. Now, unfortunately, the state constitution requires that the government provide a common schools system that is funded through taxing. And that would have to be changed in order for it to be different. Now, I'm largely with you here. As I said earlier, I have children in school age, a child, and I pay for his private school. He does not use government schools, yet I do pay property taxes. I pay occupational taxes as an employer in the county. I pay all kinds of things to this school district. I pay a tax on my utility bills to this school district, but yet I don't use those facilities. I'm literally taking my child elsewhere. So I in large part agree with you. The thing is, as a culture, I believe, and Shannon, feel free to chime in here. I think as a culture, we have to get to a point first where parents realize their children are their responsibility. Through all the hand-holding, through all the government benefits and all those other things, I believe we've sent a clear message to these parents that you don't need to worry about raising and taking care of your child. It's not your responsibility. It's the government's responsibility. And so a lot of times they are failing to do basic things. Right now, we see the governor pushing really heavy for universal pre-K. And once again, sending a message that teaching your child to read in their early years is not the parent's responsibility, but is instead the responsibility of the government to pay for and take care of. That disengages parents even more so from their children. And we see stats time and time again prove what happens when we do not have parents involved in children's homes. So I agree with your second half about what are we doing about these people who are paying taxes that yet don't have kids in those schools. I think we have to have a pretty big culture shift, but that's part of it. Now, somebody else sent this in. Here you go. Somebody asked, I think, they said, what did your guest just say about buildings going up in Red River Gorge? Did I hear it wrong? Maybe what you're thinking about there, we were talking about how Powell County has Red River Gorge in it. We were talking about the property taxes there. We were talking about how when they build new cabins, and Shannon was talking about how these cabins are not cheap cabins per se. They're $500,000, $1 million cabins. Mm-hmm. Those new properties do not get counted as a tax increase. So if you keep your rate at the set rate, at the compensating rate, which is the rate of which you would pull in the same amount of money, they consider that based upon the money you received last year. New property being built, being added on, does not get counted. So when they set a compensating rate, it isn't just that's the amount that they'd make the same amount. They actually make more than that rate because they also are collecting now on the new properties being built. So they're still making more money. And if they do 4%, their actual amount they pull into their accounts is not going to be 4%. It's probably going to be closer to 5, 6, 7% increase because they have all the new property being built. So that's worth bringing up. And then one other comment we got here. What would you think about removing competitive sports from public funded schools? Now, I have Shannon Dennison here. Yeah. He's running for state house rep. What district?
74th district, which 74th is Montgomery, district. Menifee, and Bath counties.
And I can tell you, I've known Shannon for years. He's not just a talker. He is a doer. He gets involved. He gets involved in the fight. That's why I had him on today, because he's leading the charge on a tax fight right now. So that is worth mentioning as you're looking at who do you support, who do you want to help out in campaigns, do you want to donate money or not, looking at who's been in the fight already. Shannon has been in the fight already. That's why he's definitely somebody that is worth looking at if you're looking for people to support. And also, he's talking about policies that affect everyone, including you all here that are listening that are in other counties, because he's talking about learning from dealing with a school district on this tax increase, what laws need to be changed at the state level so everybody across the board can be protected from predatory tax increases. That's what I'll call them, predatory
tax
great.
That's
Increases.
a great term, yes.
You can have that one. That one's free. I won't charge you for it.
Thanks.
So to the question, though, what would you think about removing competitive sports from public funded schools? What do you think about that?
So here's my plan with that. Let's put Parks and Recreation in charge of all athletic facilities, okay? Right now, if you have children that maybe go to a non-government school, maybe you homeschool those children, borderline illegal for them to use the facilities at the government school.
They don't have to allow them. Yeah.
So they don't have to allow them. So even if you wanted to go pass, a football around on that multi-million-dollar football field, you're banned from doing so.
Even though you paid for it.
Even though you paid for it. And something else to bring up is, did you voluntarily give this money to the government, or did they take it from you? In a lot of cases they're taking it, right? At any point in time, anyone, the opposition here says we need more government, you can donate more money to your local school board at any time. You can pull out your checkbook, write a check, mail it into them. They'll accept it. They'll have a smile on their face. It'll probably be the first one that they ever cash. But it's something you can do right now. You don't have to force your friends, coworkers, and neighbors, to fund government at a higher level. If you as an individual want to fund your government at a higher level, you can do it right now without forcing anyone else to do it. So part of my plan will be to at least start the discussion to potentially put Parks and Recreation over top of the athletic facilities of our government schools, so everyone in the public can benefit, because parents who maybe don't have their children in these systems are being forced to fund them.
I know there's the Tim Tebow bill. It got tacked on as an amendment this last session that would allow people who don't go to public schools, kids who don't go to public schools but live in the district where otherwise they would be going to that public school, will get access and the ability to join those athletic teams. But I think what you're saying here is saying, look, is there a way we move it into Parks and Rec? Is there a way we move it away from these schools? Because to the point, you do already have entities in all these counties that already, like literally it's in their name, are dealing with these types of things. They take care of sports fields. They take care of complexes. They have baseball fields now they take care of for T-ball and other things. And that would open up opportunities, of course, for other people to get involved if it is detached from being a school set thing.
The opportunities that it's going to open up, for instance, in Powell County, the Tourism Commission is sitting on a lot of money right now. And that money could be utilized if Parks and Recreation was over top of these athletic facilities. Right now, today, that money could be tapped into and put to good use through the Tourism Commission, because the Tourism Commission, they could, it's my understanding, build a football field, right?
Well, they just bought an off-road park, didn't they?
I'm not sure about the details on that.
I think Powell County bought an off-road park. I think it's Hollerwood. And I think they bought it because it was I just saw something I ride dirt bikes. And I was looking at where I was going to go this last weekend, and I saw it said something about a public-private partnership. And then all the recent comments were about how horrible it's taken care of. So it makes sense that government is now running it.
Sure, yeah, maybe, yeah, right, yeah. So I don't think so, yeah. I'd like to see it be private. But back to property taxes, I think that's what's on everyone's mind today. Everybody's been opening up their tax bills, and I had one gentleman call me, and he said his tax bill, his neighbor sold their home. It triggered a reassessment, I guess, on everyone on the street. His tax bill went from, I think it was $1,600 or $1,800 a year to like $6,800 a year. It went up $5,000. His valuation went from $227 to like $727 on his home.
My goodness!
And here in Kentucky, I mean, it's just ludicrous. So we need some better policies that protect, this predatory stuff from happening with taxpayers. So I'm leading the charge here in Kentucky to end Kentucky's property tax. We're not going to be closing schools and libraries and fire and EMS, but we will be moving that funding mechanism to a different source.
And they can find out more about you at Denniston4FORKY.com. Denniston4FORKY.com. Shannon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
To all of you all, we'll see you back here on Kentucky's Voice tomorrow. Hope you have a great rest of your day.